All right, so again, just thank you all for signing up and coming to this. I hope that we can go through some of the ping post details here in your system. So if you're maybe just starting out, or maybe you have some questions on some configurations, we hope to tackle all of those in this webinar here. So to start off, a little bit about ping post. You know, the ping post is very key in the lead generation market. Allows you to essentially get this information from a seller without actually disclosing all of the information, and then turn around and be able to sell that to one of your buyers, and at the same time be able to take out a little piece of the pie in your own margin that can be set. So when discussing ping post, we're going to first start with the idea of selling ping post leads. So in order to sell those, you're going to have buyers that you're going to be looking to sell these leads to. They must have a ping post system on their end. This way in the system we can create those deliveries so that when that lead hits your system, whether it's from your own form or you're actually purchasing it from a lead seller, you can then ping, which is the partial lead information. Depending on the lead type, will depend on what those ping fields are. It's always non-contact information. Geography like zip and state, and then it starts to get really specific depending on the vertical. Any of the insurance verticals, they're going to have their own type of information that's passed through. Auto, it's going to be the year, make, and model, maybe their credit rating. Health insurance, it's going to be those health conditions, gender, smoker, date of birth, whereas like fields such as, or verticals such as home improvement, that's going to be like the project type and zip code, just to give a few examples. So when you are going to be selling these ping post leads through your boberdoo system, the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to set up the buyer within your partner section, or buyer, or clients, whatever they're referred to. And as I mentioned, they have to have some type of ping post system on their end. So in order to get those set up very easily, you can just create a ticket in the system, attach those ping post specs, and that way our development team can go through, test those, make sure they're working properly so that you can roll them out and get started. On the other side, it's, if you're looking to buy ping post leads, so maybe you're generating your own traffic, but you're also looking to get some more leads flowing through your system. Many of our clients arbitrage leads, meaning they buy them from a seller and then they turn around and flip them and sell them to a buyer on their end, and then they take a little margin in between there for doing that deal. So when you are buying ping post leads, very similarly, you're going to have to create the account for this lead seller in your system, and then give them all the specific information to pass that lead information through, so that way it shows up in your system and can then in turn sell to your buyers that you have configured. So let's go through some details with this right now. Let's first start with setting up that vendor account. This is really quickly, we'll go through this. Settings, manage vendors. This is where you can create that account. You're going to fill in their contact information and click Save. Once you click Save, that gets added here so that you can adjust any of their settings that you want, if you want to have them log in and see what leads they've submitted through. The next step is creating their SRC value. This is your main tracking variable, so you know exactly where the lead comes from, and then it gives you the ability to attach that vendor to the SRC. So that means when this vendor logs in, they can see all the leads that come through any of the sources that they're attached to. So they would see all the leads coming through these particular ones that ID3 is coming through. So that's the second step, creating their SRC value. And then last but not least, you're going to have to give them the ping post specs link, so that that's basically the blueprint, so they know how to send the leads into your system. Those can be found under Settings and then API Specs. And then these are all in alphabetical order, and it's ping post lead, So once you click on ping post lead, you can scroll down and you're going to see all the lead types in your system that are set up to be ping post. If you have a lead type in your system right now, it's not set up for ping post, no problem, just let us know. It's a very easy change on our end to make that adjustment. So let's start off with this generic ping post lead type that we have created in here. Once you click on those, click on that lead type, it's going to show you the specs here, but it's also going to give you this quick link. So all you need to do is copy and paste this link to send to your seller, and that's exactly what they're going to need so they know how to send leads into you. So besides that, you also have to give them their SRC value, which is that value we just created on that previous page, and then you're also going to have to give them their own key value, which is from the very first page we looked at, which is that settings, manage vendors. After you create that vendor account, here, once you click on it, you can see their key value at the very top. And that's kind of like their almost like username and password for using the API, so that way we know who's calling it. So those are the three things you got to set up in order to get a lead seller integrated into your system, and then giving them all the tools they need so that they can set it up to send leads through. So now that you have those three things, let's go through the actual source vendor settings for when you create that SRC, as there's a couple different options you can do depending on your setup. So once you're here and you click Add New Source, you create that SRC value for them. It's going to save on this page. And if you click Update on any of them, you're going to get the same pop-up. And it highlights all the different options that you can go through for this particular source. At any point, if you do forget what a certain field does or not sure what the definition is, there's a helpful link at the top here. Click here to view definitions for these settings. It's going to go through each of those options individually. So when you click on it, it gives it a full actual definition of what that means. But to highlight the main working areas that you're going to be concentrating on, the first thing you're going to ask, all right, is this lead seller, are they going to be dynamic or static pricing? Static pricing meaning every time they sell you a lead, it's the same price. So maybe you agree with them and say, hey, you're going to send us leads, we're going to pay you $10 per lead for all the leads that we sell from you. That would be an example of static pricing. To do that, all you have to do is set the lead cost here to that static cost. So in our example, we said $10. We would simply enter 10 in there. If it's $20, you can change that as well. You can edit these at any time. You can create as many SRCs as you need if you want to have different lead costs associated with different SRC values. So that's the static pricing setup. If you're going to do dynamic pricing, it's a little bit different and probably a little bit more common in the ping post setup, since this allows basically each lead to be its own unique entity. So one lead comes through, you might end up paying the seller $1 for it. The next one you might end up paying them $10. It could pay $7.36. It's different or can be different for every lead that comes through, and it's dependent upon what your buyer is offering for that lead. So in this setup, when we go through, it's the same exact thing. Only you're going to leave the lead cost at 0. And when you scroll down, there's some options here that apply specifically to the dynamic pricing. And that's whether you're going to allow them to use this return best price parameter. So by default, when you create a new source, this is set to no. If they're on dynamic pricing, meaning you're going to pay them differently, you're going to set this to either yes or yes but sold non-exclusively. And what that means is you're literally returning the best price offer based on what your buyers are offering back to them. So you allow them to use this by setting it to one of these two options. And that way the seller sends in a specific field and value when they send the ping in so that they can get that cost offer returned back to them. So I'll come back with what the differences are between those two in a little bit. It'll make a little bit more sense once I go through some of the other options as well. Since it is dynamic, meaning it can be different for everyone, this maximum best price offer limit that you can set is how you can cap out what you want that offer to be. So for example, if I set this to $20, that means no matter what, you'll never return back an offer to them that's more than $20. leaving it to 0 is for no limits. That's probably the most common setup. Since you're using your margins, it's always going to be relative to what you're returning back. Premium vendor margin. This is where you can set basically your cut that you want to take out of the lead. So if a buyer offers $10 for the lead and you want to take out a 20% margin, so that way the buyer offers 10, you take out the 20% margin, you return the best price back to the vendor of $8. The highest bidder minus the margin equals that price you return back. So here's where you can set both either a absolute value for an absolute dollar amount or a percentage value if you want to take a percentage out of it instead of a flat dollar amount. That's really the only unique setup for setting up a dynamic one compared to a static one. Static one, you just put in the cost. Dynamic, you're going to set these options here. So there's two different options when we are talking about margins and ping post. There's two different areas where the margin can be taken out of. There's the filter set, so each different buyer that you're selling the lead to. So based on who the lead sells to, you can take out a specific margin. And then also here at the vendor level is the secondary margin that's taken out after that first margin. So that's the way it's taken out based on who it's coming from. So to explain that a little bit more so it's a little bit clearer, let's use the example again. It's a $10 offer, and the filter set at the buyer level is set to $2. So therefore it takes out the $2. It's now an $8 offer. You're ready to return that to the vendor. Then the system looks at this premium vendor margin, and this is where you can either take out more margin before you return it back or even add money back to it before you return the offer. So many people ask, well, why would I want to add money back to it? I'm trying to make money here. Some people set it up where they have maybe one of their vendors is super top-notch quality. You want to kind of ensure that you're buying their leads. You might put a little bit back onto the offer to maybe ensure that you buy that lead from them. That's where this premium vendor margin idea came from. So here, if I put in a dollar, a positive dollar amount, that's going to add money back to the margin. I see someone here, how can I dial in? All you have to do is click the phone icon at the top, and there will be a dial-in number that you can call into, and then it will give you the option to enter in the passcode that appears there as well. So to go back to this, let's say, using that same example, it's a $10 offer from the buyer. The buyer's filter set has a $2 margin, so we're at $8. If I put a $1 in here, it would add a dollar back to that margin, so it would return back $9 to the vendor. $10 minus the 2 plus the 1 here. Alternatively, if you do a negative, let's say I do -1, it's $10 minus the buyer's filter set margin of $2, we're at $8, minus another $1, we're at $7. You would return back to the vendor $7 for that lead. So when you return back that offer to the vendor, it's then up to them, because of course, just like you're probably selling, pinging out to multiple buyers and getting different offers and comparing who's paying the most, they're most likely doing that same thing on their end. So when you ping back your offer to them, it's up to them to decide, who they're going to sell that lead to. So if they post that lead into you, that means they agreed to that offer that you return back. If they don't send the post in, that most likely means that you weren't the highest bidder and they posted that lead somewhere else. So when you're done changing anything, you can just click Save Changes at the bottom, or if you're creating a new one, you would click Add New at the bottom. That would save any of those source changes, or if you're creating a new source to begin with, that would save it and add it to this list here. So now let's take a look at the buyer setup, or partners or clients, as some of you may call them in your system. So just like you set up a vendor account so they can sell you leads, you're going to set up a buyer account so they can buy your leads from you. Once you set up their account, you're going to have to create their lead filter set. And this is very important since this is where you're going to determine the margin, if you're going to set it there, how they get the leads delivered to them, if they only take certain criteria, so on and so forth. So when we create this new filter set, we can look at the very top here, and starting at the top, we're going to have the filter set name for your reference only, and then once again, just like the source vendor settings, if you click on this link at the top here, it's going to be a full definition for each option on your filter sets page. So if you don't know what a certain field means or what it does, you can always click here and see a full definition. So the filter set name is just for your reference only. The lead price, just like the seller's options we looked at, there's two options for your buyers as well. They can either purchase leads at a static price, meaning you agree to sell them leads for $20 a lead, or it can be dynamic, where they return back an offer, and that would only be the option if they have a ping post delivery on their end that allows them to return back that dynamic price offer. So that's the requirement on the buyer's end if they're going to be dynamic. So if they are static, the lead price, this is what you're charging them for the lead. You're just going to plug that in there. If they are dynamic, you could just leave this at 0 since the price here is not being used, and the price will be used and grabbed from their lead delivery, which is their ping post delivery. So just like we have the profit margin we looked at before, we have the same profit margin where you can either do a fixed dollar amount to take out the margin, or you can do a variable. So let's use the example, they had the $10 offer, and then you're taking out the $2 margin. So again, it would be $8 you could return back to the vendor if a lead came in and matched to this account. Variable is a little bit different, and that it allows you to set up different matrices based upon that dynamic offer. So this is usually generally reserved for any buyers that are paying dynamic. Since their bid can be changed with every lead, you can set up these matrices so that the margin percentage is different based upon their bid. So when you add it first here, it's always going to start up at min price. You can put their max price in here. Let's say it's 5. So if they return back a bid and it's between $0 and $5, well, I want to take out a 15% margin then. I can then click the plus sign. The min price automatically pre-fills it as a cent more than the previous max. So now I can say if it's between a $5.01 offer and $10, well, now I want to take out a 20% margin. And you can keep on adding more, and as many as you need. So between 10 and 20, now I'm taking out a 25% margin. The default profit margin would be anything that falls outside of this. So basically, if they offer more than $20, that's when the default profit margin is used. So here, I'm going to set it to 30. So this is a way, depending on what their dynamic bid is, determines how much of your margin you want to take out. So you can really pinpoint your pricing and really get those bids back to your vendor appropriately based upon what the buyer is offering here. So that's setting up the buyer accounts for the profit margin. If they are dynamic, they have to have a custom delivery setup, and to set the delivery that's under the lead delivery setup. And as I mentioned, those deliveries do have to be created in the system so that we can capture that price when they return it back. And so that way it's used instead of this lead price value that's set for static pricing. So now that we kind of went through both of those, I want to go back to the source vendor settings so I can explain the difference between that return best price option. So I'm going to go back to settings, source vendor settings. I'm going to go back down to this dynamic one that we set up. So you can see here the allow using return best price parameter, which flags the vendor as being dynamic pricing if they're to yes, or yes but still non-exclusively. So to explain what that means, more common is yes. So what happens in this scenario if it's set to yes? The lead comes through from this seller. It goes into your system. Your system then pings out that lead to all your buyers in you know, one shotgun mode, as we refer to. So it fires it out to all of them at the same time. So let's say you have 10 different buyers. It sends that ping out to all 10 buyers at the same time, and then we gather those responses as they come back in. Once we get all the responses back, we see then, you know, who accepted that ping, and then what their price offer is. The price offer, either their dynamic offer they returned in the delivery, or their price offer is the lead price from their filter set. We then reorder that based upon the highest bidder after the margin. So once we say we have, it fires out to 10 buyers, 3 of them offered successfully, 7 of them rejected it. One of them offers 12, one of them offers 10, one of them offers 8. They all have a 10% margin. So in this situation, we see $12 as the highest bidder. We take that margin off of that highest bidder, return that offer back to the vendor. If the vendor agrees to that price offer, they then post the lead into your system. And at that point, we force the match to go to that highest bidder. If they reject that lead, meaning if you send the post to them and they return back a response saying they don't want the lead, maybe it's a duplicate, maybe it's invalid values, whatever reason they don't accept that lead on the post, if this is set to yes, that the lead stops right there and you return back unmatched to the vendor saying you didn't buy that lead. Now, how that differs compared to yes but sold non-exclusively, let's say that same exact example all the way up to that highest bidder, we attempt it to them and they reject that lead on the post. If it's set to yes but sold non-exclusively, then the system then looks at the next person that still returned a match in the ping, and it will attempt to them. So kind of what that means is why yes but still non-exclusively, this is more used for when people are selling shared leads, so that way if the first one rejects, you still try to sell it to the other ones. Please note that, you know, the drawback of this is, you know, you could in theory end up with a lead selling at a loss. If the lead, you know, the follow-up buyers underneath that highest bidder don't cover that cost margin that was returned originally back to the vendor. So that's the main difference. If it's yes, it's only going to attempt to the highest bidder. If it's yes but sold non-exclusively, it'll attempt to anyone who has accepted on the ping if that first one fails. So that's the big difference between those two settings. So when you are doing it, I would recommend sending it to yes first. You can always come in here and change it if need be. So now that we went through the setups here, the margin, margin on the source level, we went through the margin on the partner level or the buyer level. Your leads page, this is where you can see all of that happen. So every lead that comes in shows up on your leads page here, or sorry, every post that comes into your system shows up on your leads page here. If you wanted to see pings as well, all you have to do is click the filter icon at the top. And at the very top, there's the options here. If you want to view pings only, pings and post only is the default. So if you only wanted to see the pings that came through, you're going to want to click that and click filter. This is very useful for troubleshooting. So for example, you sign on a new vendor. They said, hey, we're live. You go and you check on your leads page. You don't see any posts in your system. So what you do is come here, select pings only, click filter, and it's going to show you all the pings that came through. And that way, you can click on the lead logs to see, you know, maybe your buyers are rejecting it, maybe the vendor's not sending enough information on the ping. You should be able to see that by reading the lead logs and then evaluating, you know, what they're sending compared to what the response back is from the buyer. So as I said, all the posts will show up here by default. Probably one of the best tools that you can get used to in your system if you're doing ping post is the show lead log. So each lead has this icon here that you can click on, and that's going to give you deep insight into exactly what happened with that lead. So when I click on the show lead log here, oh, that's a bad example since it's old. So when you click on the show lead log here, you give the pop-up. So just like your leads page, the most recent leads at the top, same thing here, the most recent log is always at the top. So starting at the bottom, the lead comes through and we can see who could have matched to it. So many of you will ask, hey, what does this fake ping delivery mean? If you have buyers that are not on a ping post lead type, if you have buyers that do not have a ping post delivery option, so they have a direct post delivery option that goes to their CRM, or they're getting email deliveries, those are examples of non-ping post deliveries. This fake ping is basically a system placeholder to show you, hey, ID1 matched on the ping with this lead. Fake ping delivery, ID3 matched to this ping when it came through. And you can see their delivery method here as well, HTML email. So all that fake ping means is that that buyer is eligible based upon their filter sets to get that lead. Then you can see here it actually came through on the post, and it actually sent the email successfully out to each of those and sold the bulk. And click another one that maybe has a custom delivery option here. So let's say this lead came through. We see fake ping delivery, ID 53 matched to it, ID 59 matched to it. They actually have a ping delivery. This is the exact response that this delivery method returned back when you attempted the ping to them. So this is always, as I said, this is like your best friend on your leads page, is the show lead log, because if you have a bunch of ping post deliveries, these buyers' responses will be shown here, so you can see exactly what they return back. So we sent them the ping, and they sent back, required field for this field is missing. So that way you know why they did not accept that lead. Some buyers' responses are a little bit more detailed than others. So each one is different, so you have to take them on a case-by-case basis. You'll notice then above it here, it's that same delivery, same ID. This is the boberdoo system log, basically saying why the lead wasn't a success. The response that they returned back wasn't a success. Since the buyer was flagged as dynamic pricing, that means we're looking for that price they're going to return back to use that as the bid. They didn't return it since they returned to error, so the price is missing as well. So when you click on a lead log and you see two logs like this, we have lots of clients say, when we say, hey, what does the lead log say? They say, well, it just says response is not success, price is missing. What does that mean? All you have to do is look at the log below that, as that is the actual raw response that this system that you attempted to return back. So it came in, had two different possible matches on the ping. One was a fail, one was a success. So it ultimately goes to the one that had the successful ping, quote-unquote ping, since it's a fake ping delivery. So that lead only sold to ID 53, since when we pinged it to 59, they did not accept that lead. So, we have some buyers, we have some clients who have buyers that have 20 different buyers that are all offering on the lead. So if you click on the show lead log, it's going to show you each of those different responses back and forth. So this lead log could, in theory, be extremely long, filled with logs of who you all attempted to. So looking at this page, like I said, the lead log is a very helpful tool to be able to see those responses, and that way you can, figure out basically, or grab it and copy and paste it and send it to your buyer and say, hey, what does this response mean? We're getting this on all the pings we send you. Why aren't you accepting them? The buyers themselves will always have the best answers for what their own responses are, since it's their own system that they're sending to. So, for example, if you had a seller sending into your system, and we return back an error response and they were wondering what that is, you would come to us and say, hey, what does this error mean? Same idea there. If you could just send that to your buyer, and your buyer can say, be able to answer that question for you for what that response means. Usually they do have some type of identifier. Something's missing, something's invalid. They'll try to tell you, so that way you can look at that. So now I'm going to go through some of the different reports here that we have that are associated with Ping Post. So when you click on your Reports tab, these ones can be run manually through the system. You click which report you want to run, you choose the date range you want to run it for, and you can click Generate. These 5 reports that show here most popular are based upon your individual login. So if your own login, you log in and do the same reports, those are going to be saved as your most popular reports. Or you can click Show All Reports to show the full list. So if you type in and search, Ping Post, you can see all the reports that are specifically referring to anything with Ping Post. So incoming Ping Post API request by source, outgoing as opposed to incoming, by partner, by source. This is where you can kind of see all your numbers of what's happening. So for example, you want to see how many leads a certain seller, or how many pings a certain seller has sent you so far. You can do this incoming. Click Generate. This is a dummy system that we're working with, so I don't know if there will be any, not too much data here, but you can see just the example of what it looks like. Each different SRC is going to be coming listed here, how many pings they sent through, how many posts, as well as a graph so you can see. These can all be saved and download to your desktop. The images or graphs can even be saved as a JPEG file or an image file. So this is a nice report to be able to see kind of what your volume is coming inbound, so what your sellers are sending to you. So if you see, for example, this one come in and there's 10,000 pings, but there's only 5 posts, you'd want to go to that seller and say, hey, what's going on? Are we not returning back a high enough bid? Is there an issue? Compared to if you see another one that has a better, ping to post ratio. Of course, every ping that sends through is not going to turn into a post, but that's something that you'll want to look at and evaluate on a basis that you deem necessary. So that's the incoming side of it. Compare that to then the outgoing. Let's do it by source as well, just so we can keep that straight here, what we're talking about. So based upon your sources coming in and then going outgoing, so this is where you can see what your buyers are then accepting or rejecting, and then where they're coming from. So an example would be, total pings are coming in, how many pings were sent total, how many posts came through, how many bids you won, so they attempted to post through. And then post rejects would be if that seller sent in the post and then your buyer rejected it. And again, the graphing image here as well that you can take a look at. And then finally, the last report, accepted, rejected by partner. Same idea here, except it's going to list that out based upon your different buyer accounts. Any of these can be sorted as well, so if you want to say who's got the most posts, the least posts, any of these can be clicked on to be sorted by. So this one's going to show you, based upon each partner, total pings that were sent to them, the pings that they accepted, the total posts attempted to them, if they rejected those posts, which ones they accepted, priority level, not used as much, and then total sales for how much you have sent to them that they've purchased that they would owe you. So this is one of the more important ones because you'll always want to keep your eye on this post-rejected one. You never want to have post-rejects. Really the only valid reason for a post-reject should be a duplicate, since no contact information is sent on the ping. So in theory, a buyer could make a bid for it, then they purchase the lead, they agree to purchase it, it gets posted to them. That's when they finally get the name and the email and the phone number and the contact information. So at that post, they could have already had that information. So that's really only the real valid post-reject reason. But if you're getting a buyers that post-reject lots of their leads, that doesn't make your vendors happy as well. And of course, you're not selling the lead then. And then on top of that, most importantly, they got the full lead posted to them, but they're not charged for it. So always want to keep your eye on the post-rejects to make sure your buyers are not doing that. So that's if you're going to manually run these reports, that's under this main reports section. We also have the timed reports. So if you wanted this information sent to you automatically on a weekly or monthly basis, even daily, you can click Add New under the time reports, select which report you want to run. So for example, I want it for the last 30 days, sent to my email address with a certain subject line. For the last 30 days, I want this sent to me on the 1st of every month at 9 a.m. So that way, the 1st of the month at 9 a.m., it's going to send you this report for with the data in the last 30 days. So that way it automatically sends to you. You don't have to remember to come in here and physically run it. We have lots of different options here if you wanted to do it, for yesterday's period, and I wanted to do it every day at 9 a.m. That way every day you get the previous day's reporting sent to you automatically. That's a very common setup here. That can be done for each lead type for different reports, not just the ping post ones as well. So that's those are the main kind of topics I wanted to cover and go into detail with. Setting up those vendors and your sources, getting them their posting specs. We went through the different kind of options they have versus for dynamic pricing versus static pricing. We then looked through the partner accounts and your buyers, setting them up with those lead filter sets, setting the margins there as well. And then the leads page where you can look at all the leads coming through. You can filter by and just view the pings to troubleshoot and click that show lead log icon. And then finally this report section where you can see kind of the total data, raw numbers that's sent through as well. So I wanted to now open it up to kind of the Q&A process to get some maybe your specific individual questions answered. So again, if you do have a question, please enter that into the chat at the top. So if you have a lead type in your system, it's not set up for ping post, that's a very easy switch on our end. If you just want to, all you have to do is create a ticket and let us know what lead type you need switched over, a couple switches on our end that we have to do, and that allows that lead type to be set up and configured as a ping post in your system. So to highlight the ticketing system, all I have to do is click the tickets at the top. These go directly to me and the support team. So that way, depending upon what it is, whether it's a programming request, a time quote, that way we can route that to the correct person or correct person or programmers here on our end to get those handled for you. So here's tickets, add new ticket. This is not set up actually in the system, sorry about that. So that way when you add a new ticket, if you need to have any of those lead types adjusted to be set up for ping post, just let us know. We can do that easily for you. So any other questions we have want to get answered here related to ping post setup or ping post options, or maybe scenarios or questions that you have? Please feel free to enter those into the chat. While any of those questions are coming in, I'm going to go through one more section while we're here, and that's when we set up the vendors or your lead sellers in your system. So just like you have a login option for you and your employees to log in, we do have a vendor login as well, where they can log in, see what leads they've submitted, run a couple different reports, so on. So after you create that vendor account, if you click on to edit them, you'll see there's a couple indented ones here. So you can go into their vendor admin that logs you in as them so you can see what they see. But you also have permissions and advanced settings here so you can really determine what they can do when they log in there. So the first one you want to do is click on vendors permissions, and there's two options here. There's the reports, so what reports they can run when they log in, and then there's the pages, for what pages they can view when they log in. So the most common one are leads and reports. Most of the time, everyone leaves the other ones disabled. So we're going to leave that. And then for what reports they can run, the refund report is obviously a big one. Revenue report, leads report, sales report shows you what you sell the leads for. So depending upon your relationship with your vendor, what kind of setup it is, you're going to want to determine what reports they can run when they log in. So now we have those permissions set. We can also do advanced settings, which apply to the specific fields for each lead type. So maybe you don't want a certain vendor to view, a certain field when they go in. This way, you can pick and choose which fields are visible when they log in on their end. So I click Go to Vendor Admin. This will give them a login ability, like I said. This can show them some quick graphs, how many leads they've sent through, the matched, the unmatched, any that are removed or declined or refunded. The leads tab, they can see every lead that comes through that they send, what happened with it, some of the information, and then of course the reports tab. So they can run a couple different reports. Same idea as your end. You choose the report, you choose the lead type. It's going to be if they have multiple, the date range, and then click generate. So a little bit, obviously less tabs and a little bit more limited to what you have as the admin side, but still a nice tool if you want to give them login access for reporting to maybe compare the numbers, what they have on their end, to what you show in your system. Always good to have some checks and balances in there. All right, so that's all for today. I want to thank everyone for coming here. If you do think of another question after it's done, feel free to reach out to me or David. We can get those answered for you. We hope that this webinar was beneficial for helping any ping post questions or concerns that you had. We will be having another one of these in the next few weeks as well, so please be on the lookout for the emails coming in from our marketing team that will let you know when that is taking place. Thank you again.